Today's AskReddit post. What's the scariest thing that's ever woken you up during the middle of the night? Oh boy, this is gonna be a good one. Let's get started. When I was a kid, we went camping in the woods. I heard what I thought was a bear outside our pop-up camper and it woke me up. Me and my two brothers were sleeping on one side, with me in the middle, and our parents were sleeping on the other side. It was completely dark so I couldn't see a thing, but I could hear what I thought was a bear snorting around outside. I was scared to death. I couldn't figure out a way to climb over my brothers and cross to the other side to wake up my father, without making noise and alerting the bear to the tasty meal waiting inside. So, I just lied there perfectly still for the whole night, waiting for giant claws to rip their way through the canvas. As the sun came up and I started to see, I noticed that the lump that was my father in a sleeping bag was rising and falling with the bear's snorting. Turns out my dad's snoring had kept me up all night in absolute fear. Can relate. Any little noise sounds super amplified when camping in the woods. I honestly thought there was a large creature walking slowly out of the lake nearby our campsite once. After investigating, it turned out to be frickin' frogs hopping. Frogs. Ugh. I felt like a complete idiot. Hilarious, your brain converted your dad snoring into a bear snorting, but makes sense when you think of the similar sounds. And I literally lied there for hours in the dark until the sun came up and I could see what it was. Frogs scared the crap out of me and my friend one evening when we were fishing on a river. It started to get dark and we could hear this rustling sound coming toward us from a hill behind us. It got louder and louder. Eventually, this swarm of frogs came off the hill and they all jumped in the river. Thousands of them came down the hill, past us and just jumped in the water. It was incredibly surreal. We were pretty smoked at the time so that made it even more trippy. That is wild. I actually would have liked to see that. At least it wasn't a tarantula migration like my friend got ambushed by when she was a kid. She said that out of nowhere, there was this huge black mass moving toward her and her family. Her dad picked her and hey brother up and ran into the tent. She said she heard the tarantulas popping as he stepped on them, and then they watched in horror from inside the tent as the tarantulas crawled over it. To this day, she's terrified of spiders. Can't even handle hearing about them or looking at pictures of them. A poster falling down from the wall. I'm pretty sure my neighbors heard my scream. Flat Stanley, is that you? Wait, what? Someone else knows about Flat Stanley? I thought I was the only one. I thought it was pretty common. Do a lot of people not know about it? Once I woke up because I heard music playing from the kitchen and I thought maybe mum forgot to turn the radio off. I went through the dark hallway to the kitchen to turn the radio off, but when I was standing in the dark kitchen there was no music playing. Everything was as quiet as always at 3 AM. There's an oldish post on Tumblr about someone who kept hearing carnival music in their apartment but could never find the source. Turns out that they were having auditory hallucinations. Edit. To anyone who also experiences this, I recommend that you do look into it further to perhaps find its causes or ways to counter it. Also, this reply by you weeping demon the 7th may also be linked to this depending on how you experience these sounds. Number. It's not an audio hallucination, but a form of tinnitus called apophenia and is quite common. My dog barking because cops were banging on the doors and windows of our Airbnb, flashing their lights into each and every room. Called 911 and she told us to not answer the door because she doesn't see cops in our area. Yup, holy crap. That's terrifying. Smart move on calling the cops. My cat howling at another cat through a screen in the door. Sounded like a demon. That is such a scary and freaky sounding noise. You're sure right on that. My sister had an all-white clown doll that hung from the ceiling on a little swing. In the summertime, we slept with our doors and windows open to get the cool air in. When I woke up one night hearing some tapping against her window down the hall, if I sat up in bed and looked down the hall, and I could see into the front of her bedroom. So I did. And I see this ducking clown swinging back and forth against her window, backlit by the street lamp, but clearly staring directly into my soul like it was all it desired in this world. I didn't sleep well that summer. Read that first sentence and said, "You got the wrong one. Sister or doll?" Yes. I woke up with chunks of teeth in my mouth and severe abdominal pain. Probably swallowed some tooth. Then, I looked across the room and there was a pool of blood on the opposite side of the room. After quickly spitting out the rest of the teeth bits, I went to the bathroom and was shocked to see my entire face was bleeding, but from a deep cut in my chin and not from my missing tooth. I realized that I had sleepwalked, then decided to fall asleep while standing on the other side of the room and did a belly flop straight on the floor, and then somehow after all of that, got up again and walked back into bed and fell asleep for a few more hours. I had to get a new tooth from a student doctor that I've never gotten fixed. I also ended super gluing my busted chin together because I couldn't afford stitches. Couldn't afford stitches. So you're American then. Super glue works great if you know how to do it. I'd bring some for camping trips, hiking, irrigate, disinfect, dry and glue, and if it's smaller than an inch or two it's basically fine. I used to hike a lot in the bush mountains. 2 days in, 3 days there, 2 days out. Got to have some level of preparedness, and if you do it right there won't be much if any of a scar. Canadian BTW. I'd probably buy some self-closing stitches, but the point remains. To not seek treatment when you get home because it is too expensive is a crazy situation. The night I watched the movie The Conjuring, I woke up to my bed shaking and all the clothes hanging in my closet rattling like crazy. Took me quite some time to realize it was an earthquake and not the devil come visiting. When I was in my final year at high school, I had trouble sleeping at night with my final exams approaching. I think I dozed off for a bit and suddenly woke up to see a person's face staring in through my window grill. I was in such a panic I literally couldn't move or scream. Luckily he saw me wake up and escaped. So someone was actually watching you? Nah, it was probably just the friendly sleep paralysis demon. The sleep paralysis demon had her lay over me while whispering in tongues in my ear. Terrifying shit when you can't move or understand why it was happening. Now I get instantly erect whenever anyone whispers in my ear. My wife uses it as a tactic to make me come when sex is going on too long. Grinning face with squinting eyes and sweat drop. Hey little mammal, whisper in your ear. I was drifting off and was already dreaming, but it seemed I was still awake because I was dreaming of myself in bed in my room. But in my dream I was awake. I dreamt some people or person swung through the bedroom door and ran towards me and in an instant and hit me with all their might with some heavy object. I shook awake. It was a similar feeling when you may startle yourself awake because it seems like you're falling. It took a moment for my brain to tell me I was alone, and it was just a dream. It was so strange, exhilarating, scary. Never had a dream like it since. Oh my god. I once had a dream where I was asleep in bed, rolled over, and the person next to me was not my husband. He was terrifying looking. He reached for me and I screamed and ran for the door. There was another terrifying stranger danger at our bedroom door who reached for me too. So I screamed again and bolted, and I woke up halfway in the bathroom with my husband going, "Sure, okay, you're okay." I think I gave him a heart attack that night. If I had that happen I wouldn't want any other way to wake up though. Right. As a straight guy, I'd even accept a husband to tell me it's okay. Yeah, as a straight guy I agree. I guess I could have specified so, but it's all love. I had a large camel spider run over my face at about 3 AM. That was not a pleasant sensation. Those duckers are fast as shit and will follow your shadow for hours if they can. Thanks, I hate it. I heard someone quietly trying my front doorknob late at night. I wasn't quite asleep yet. I checked with my roommate later, and it wasn't them. It happened once or twice more, but I never got to the door quickly enough to see who it was through the peephole. Nothing ever came of it, and I live somewhere else now. Burglars do that sometimes. Try looking for unlocked houses or cars. It's easier for them since to effort to get in, but some see it as permission basically. Super creepy. There's a serial killer named Richard Chase that would target people who left their doors unlocked. How he saw it was if a house was locked, the people inside didn't want him there, and if a door is unlocked it is an invitation for him to enter. At least he was a polite serial killer. Good for him. It turned out to be funny. Someone was trying loudly to break into a car just outside my ground floor bedroom window that faced a large parking lot in an apartment complex. He was trying to smash the windows and wasn't strong enough and was yelling a lot. I called the police. I heard every word they said when they showed up. It turned out that he was trying to break into his own car because he was too drunk to find his own keys in his own pocket. That'll get you a DWI most anywhere in the US. A completely hammered guy slammed into a bunch of parked cars in my apartment complex, and when the cops came they said because they didn't see him behind the wheel there was nothing they could do about it. That's crazy. One of my friends got a DUI while she was passed out on her boyfriend's couch about 8 years ago. What happened was, she was driving to the BF's place after a night of heavy drinking, passed out at the wheel and hit a utility pole. It jarred her awake and she left the scene and made it to his place like maybe a mile or two away. Someone witnessed it and followed her, got her plate number and called the cops. They showed up just a short time later, waking her up, and had enough evidence to charge and book her with a DUI. Had a professor tell us about how he got a DUI after falling asleep in his parked car in the parking lot of the bar. He never actually drove drunk. Really crazy that you can get a criminal record for drunkenly falling asleep in the wrong place. The extremely realistic feeling of a bare hand grabbing my foot, which made me wake up instantly only to realize it was somehow a dream. This reminded me of the time I was lying on my arm so long it went numb, and then I touched it with my other hand and thought it was someone else's arm in the bed with me. That was a startle. I once woke up with both my arms numb, folded across my chest. I was cold, and I realized that's what being in a coffin would be like. That is super creepy. My parents visited my wife and I, and since we didn't have 2 bedrooms, we let them stay in our bedroom. But we have 2 cats and they can open the bedroom door if it isn't locked by key. We told them to remember to close it. Sometime at night I hear a scream followed by cat. Come to find out that my mom went to use the bathroom but forgot to lock the bedroom door afterwards, and my dad was greeted by my cat's face staring at his. Honestly, was probably scarier for my cat, who was expecting to see me instead. Grinning face with tightly closed eyes. Cootie. BF was out of town and I heard a voice in the middle of the night. My dogs woke up and barked too. Heard the voice again, sounded like a British woman. Grabbed the gun and started lurking the house like WTFFFFFFFFFF. It was my carbon monoxide detector that apparently talks to tell me the battery was low. But it scared the shit out of me for a few minutes. Whose idea was it to design it like this? It had to be done on purpose just to mess with people, cause that's hilarious. I had an industrial size rat dying from rat poison come through a panel in my closet and up into bed with me at 2 AM. Well, I'm sure we know how this ended. What are you doing, step rat? Hey Google, can you tell why the duck this person said that? It's the funniest thing I've read all day. My dog decided to hop onto our piano and started walking along the keys in the middle of the night. Maybe your dog was a cat in its past life. Is it a husky? Those are cats in their current life. I was gonna say basically the same. Maybe their dog is a cat in its current life. When I was 18 I'd broken my leg, and it was non-weight bearing, so I was sleeping on the sofa downstairs. Woke up to a guy climbing in the window directly over my head. I'd obviously left the window open a crack and he'd seen an opportunity. To be honest, as scared as I was, I'm fairly sure I scared the shit out of him too, as he screamed and ran away after I hit him with my crutch. Imagine just wanting to break in a house and suddenly you get hit by a crutch. I would be scared too. My roommate screamed directly into my face at 1 AM. You best know I instinctively slapped that bastard. I woke up and heard someone walking outside my bedroom window. The window was open and there were leaves on the ground. I got up and put my back against the wall next to the window. I heard a very distinct human walking sound getting closer and closer. I was pooping my pants at this point. They were now very close and I could see out the window, but I could not see them. I was pressed against the wall as the footsteps got closer and closer. Then the footsteps got quieter as the being got farther away. It took every nerve in my being to look out that window and nothing. I went outside and looked back there, baseball bats in hand, and saw a very large possum. No scary criminal. I eventually broke down and just started sleeping with earplugs in whenever we'd go camping. Possums were frequent passers-by and I'd be woken up by the sound of human footsteps every time. Armadillos, on the other hand, sound like bulldozers. Tornado siren. In the Midwest they test them once a month and you get used to it. But holy hell, when it goes off at 3 AM your subconscious mind dumps adrenaline into you. I thought I was going to have a heart attack. Like literally 29-year-old about to have my wife call an ambulance. New guy at work. He was new to the Midwest. It's 10 AM on the dot. First Tuesday of the month. Sirens start going off. He's freaking out. And none of us even look up. Had a great laugh about it once we explained that it was the monthly drill. He had never heard one before. Hours are 1 PM first Wednesday of the month. Someone says, it must be 1 o'clock. And we half-heartedly chuckle and continue on with the day. One of my favorite memories is living in an apartment next to a siren and forgetting the monthly test. I've never ran in closed windows so fast. My first tornado. Woke and listened carefully and asked the wife, is that rain or wind? Just then both of our phones started beeping alerts and that put us in motion. In hindsight we reacted about a minute later than we should have. Got lucky and it contacted the ground about a miles past us. Scary. What's your plan if there's another tornado? Like what room do you go to, or do you have an underground shelter? The worst was when the neighbor boy, 9YO, came banging on our door and ringing the doorbell at 1 AM. His mom and stepdad were fighting. Stepdad hit mom and had her on the ground with his hands around her neck trying to choke her. We've never had to call 911 before that night. This poor little boy had his 2YO sister in his arms with a completely dazed look on his face. While my mom was on the phone with 911, I sat the boy down and made sure to tell him that he was incredibly brave and no matter what anyone tells him, he did the right thing by coming here. Even sadder is they had just moved here from across the country that week and he knew no one. Incredible instinct on that boy, and had the heart to take his baby sister, Ro. I don't know if it counts, but we were in the field in Camp Pendleton, CA, and sleeping in just our mummy bags under the stars, and I woke up in the night for whatever reason and my eyes focused on the next guy over in our circle who had one of the largest spiders I've ever seen in the wild sitting on his forehead. Maybe getting warm or something. Freaked me the duck out. I flicked it off of him and zipped my bag all the way up so there was just the breathing hole and used my boonie cover to plug that and just breathed through the little vents. Well, aren't you too kind to not wake him up? And you had the cajones to just flick it off? I would have been freaking out. Don't think I could have kept my composure in that situation. If he had woken him up it would have been chaos. He would either jump out of his sleeping bag and woken everyone up or screamed and woken everyone up. Either way it was better to flick the spider off. New moms, especially breastfeeding moms, might know this one. Waking up with full, painful boobs, glancing at the time, and realizing with horror that it's 4 AM and the baby has missed 2 feedings. OMG, is he dead? Asterisk. Then you run into the baby's room with your heart in your throat, turn on the light, and see that cute little jerk just snoozing away, all swaddled up. Most immense terror and relief ever. I'm a breastfeeding mum. I have her in a next to me. 6 hours passed and I was literally so scared to touch her to check if she was okay. To make it worse, it had gotten cold in the night and when I touched her, her skin was cold to the touch. I pulled her into me and she just contentedly sighed, snuggled into my warmth and went back to sleep. So I dream fed her and laid there for hours after with anxiety, grimacing face, XX. Just had to stare at my sleeping 3-month-old for a solid 10 minutes. Just to be extra sure after reading these. Motherhood is nerve-wracking, beautiful, but definitely nerve-wracking. Face with tears of joy, X. The shadow of a person next to the bed. My first and last night terror. I hope it is your last. Those sound terrifying. Yeah, me too. I knew that if I could reach the light switch she'd go away, but my arm was paralyzed. This is exactly how it happens for me. It's the freaking worst. Bro, you actually watched the whole video. I'd give you a high five if I was a human. Make sure to click the like button and subscribe for more great content. See you next time.